Let's get ready to story.
So I had to rack my brain to come up with a once upon a time story because my life is so much like a fairy tale. It's unbelievable. You ever go through life and not know what's going to be important from what your parents tell you, and it's usually the most bizarre stuff that becomes important. My dad is probably, I would say, probably the most brilliant man I've ever known in person. I mean, he's absolutely a genius. I mean, and my whole purpose in life, pretty early on, my purpose in life was I would try to out-jackass him, if that even makes sense to anyone. Because he was even though he was a genius, he was kind of a jackass. And so I would try to outdo him, and I could never do it. I remember one time I said to my dad, "Dad, my name is Pat. Everyone calls me Pat. Is that short for Patrick?" And immediately he says, "No, it's long for P." You can never outdo him. We were watching a nature show about snakes one time, and I said, "Dad, could you imagine if snakes had feet and they could run after you?" And my dad says, "Then they'd be lizards." And he's right. He's completely right. So I never, my dad had a lot of weird advice growing up, but I can recall driving in our Dodge Caravan. I'm about 8 years old at the time, and we're driving, I don't know, probably to Kmart, which was a fancy trip for the Martin family to go to Kmart. This is before the internet, everybody. This is before the Kmart in Manuka. It was a big, we're gonna get notebooks? This is great. I can't even imagine doing that now. Anyway, so we're driving to Kmart, and Creedence Clearwater Revival comes on the radio. And it's Bad Moon Rising. Does everyone know the song? Pretty familiar with Bad Moon Rising. My dad, of course, being the jackass he is, turns it up and sings everybody's favorite lyric to Bad Moon Rising. "There's a bathroom on the right." And thinks this is hilarious and does it every time John Fogerty sings it. And he thinks it's so funny. And to me, I was like, oh, God. At the time, I'm like, really, Dad? Come on. You're better than that. And, but he would do this for a lot of songs on the radio. And, this is before you were allowed to play a CD in the car, so it was weird how many songs he had this ready to go with, this skill. And then when I got a little older, I got to be 10, maybe 11, I started doing it with him. We'd go back and forth with different songs and trying to make each other laugh, and he would always have the better lyrics. So fast forward to 17-year-old Patrick Martin going to East Stroudsburg University, as I always call it, the Harvard of Pennsylvania. And because it was very much like Harvard, if you don't include the good education and the ivy growing on the outside. But they did have things growing on the building. I didn't like taking a shower there. But anyway, so I went to East Stroudsburg, and one of the first guys I meet, his name is Rob. He lives across the hall from me, and he has this girlfriend. Again, as I was saying with you, it's like this girl you can never fathom this guy ever getting. In a million, you're like, how did he even talk to that girl? I mean, she was gorgeous. So my goal in life was always to make Rob look like he was an idiot in front of this girl. And I find out this secret about Rob. Rob absolutely hates when people mess up lyrics of songs. Hates it. I don't know why, but it was how some people are I hate mice. This guy hated that. And I wish I knew where he was today, because I have so many good ones. But so every time he'd be with this girl and he'd be walking into his dorm, I'd come up with different song lyrics. It started pretty basic. Instead of open arms, I would sing broken arms, this silliness. And then I came up with one that I felt was so genius. I'm going to share it with you now. I'm going to show you what a mental giant I am. So basically, Rob's walking down the hall with his girlfriend, and I stop him. And I said, does anyone know Centerfold by the Jay Giles Band? Everyone know that? My blood runs cold, right? My memory is just been so. And I stop him, and I start singing this. But instead of the chorus, I sing, my anus is the center hole. And I thought it was so funny. I mean, I can't tell you how funny 17-year-old Patrick Martin thought that was. And another piece of the puzzle to why doesn't Patrick have a girlfriend falls into place. Because I know it's a real puzzle. Speaking of that, real quick, side note, he DJ'd my wedding, everybody. Yeah. Wasn't around for the divorce, though. Wasn't around for the divorce. Weird. I just think if you're gonna do one, But yeah, so that's like a gift my dad gave me. It was some weird gift, and I'll just tell you, like a side note to that is when I started living up in Lake Ariel. This was a while ago. I lived up in the hideout for a while. And if you've never been to the hideout, it's kind of wooded, it's dark, it's secluded. Okay, so I'm coming home and I got groceries and Chinese food. And it's completely pitch black. And I, being 6'2" and somewhere in the vicinity of 350 pounds, like an offensive lineman, am scared of skunks. I hate skunks. Like terrified scared of skunks. I don't want to get sprayed. And so I walk in, I take the groceries, I leave the Chinese food, but I leave my car door open. It's like 9 o'clock at night. And I go to put the groceries in the house, and I turn around, and there's a skunk in my car eating my Chinese food. So I say, what am I gonna do? I have no idea what to do. So who am I gonna call? Smartest guy I know, my dad. He'll know what to do. He's brilliant, this guy. I call my dad, he comes to the phone, and at the time, he was hanging out with like my aunt and my uncle. They had like a little party going on. And I said, Dad, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, I can't really help you right now. I'm throwing this party. I have to get back to the party. I said, but there's a skunk in my car, and it's eating Chinese food. And my dad says, I can't help you right now, but just remember, skunks never travel alone. And hangs up the phone. And this is the person I grew up with. So that's just the story about my dad and how nutty he is. My sister's scared of squirrels, and he put a stuffed squirrel in her bed one time. So it's not just me. Anyway, that's the story.